let's jump right into how this sort of plays. A simple step that we have for big resident recruitment success is actually having a world-class onboarding experience. Again, this is relatively self-explanatory, but I know just at the top level, in-house recruiters and resident physician recruiters, the whole team, including all stakeholders in the recruitment and hiring process, everybody wants to make sure that their new physician hires get off to a good start. They want a smooth transition. They want to make sure that there's an exceptional onboarding experience. You know, I think that's one of the actual best sources for future recruiting prospects. We talk about big impact for future recruiting. A happy resident physician letting their community of colleagues know about their experience. Qand and I believe that this is just a fundamental step to not only submit any organizational retention goal and objective for some of the most valuable doctor assets. You know, this is key to a rock-solid retention strategy. You know, this is fundamental first step to submitting any organization retention goals and objectives. And then also, that very same resource library that we talked about is, I think, one of the best ways not only to demonstrate your commitment to career and life balance, but it also goes on to say, hey, we're here for the long term. We want you, we value you, we want to make sure you have the actual resources that's available, and well as helps make life so much more simple for the recruitment organization and its personnel. And again, so I know we whizzed through this simple step 6, but I think everyone is starting to see now how leveraging the different resources and the right resources can have a huge domino effect, impacting across many and all of these areas. Just as simple yet powerful steps for resident recruitment success in 2017 and beyond. So I think there you have it. You know, I'm going to rifle through these real quick. And looks like most everybody is still with us here, so that's good. While I'm clicking down here, please type in a 5 in the chat if we're continue to exceed expectations. Let me go back one, missed that one. Go back. Type in a 4 if we're doing great and providing some valuable content. Outstanding stuff. Look nice. So this is it. 6 steps. Whoops, one more time. Go back. I think the slide's getting tired. They're eager to keep going. Oh, good Lord. Okay. So real quickly, 6 steps. Commit to quarterly. You know what? That's sad. I forgot. I didn't even spell quarterly correctly. Quarterly. All right. Commit to quarterly residence presentation. Use collaborative exercises to stand out at career fairs. Focus on resource and role play for interview processes. Make sure your website speaks to physician candidate. Demonstrate commitment to career and life balance, and have a world-class onboarding experience. These, I believe, are simple steps that can actually make a huge impact for 2017. Are they easy? No. Are they powerful? Absolutely. With the right resources, the right mindset, accessing what's available, not only can it deliver big impact on the residents and the physicians you wish to recruit, as importantly, it's going to achieve that goal of giving the group that's responsible the time and the bandwidth to actually be able to start achieving that goal of quarterly, if not more, residency presentations that was part of the goal. So let's transition, Todd. I know that we have questions. There's a lot of people who submitted questions before, and it looks like we've had a series of questions that have come in on there. So let's jump right into it. And obviously, if we don't get to the questions, your question specifically, make sure you email us, and we'll respond as soon as possible. We'll also be providing our email and contact details at the end. So, Todd, since you probably have the master list of questions, let's just take a quick, small sample of them, and you ask the questions, and let's put a response together and see what we come up with here.
Yeah, one of the questions here, let's see, the 6 steps you mentioned today make sense to me, and I know that it needs to be implemented. However, I barely have enough time to complete the tasks that I currently have assigned to me. How do I remove the non-recruiting task when they're assigned to me by my supervisor slash CEO? So that's a pretty good question. You know, we live in an evidence-based world, or especially in healthcare. You know, physicians very evidence-based, black and white, scientific. Healthcare is coming that way too. Everything is being measured and what have you. So, you know, one of the things I would offer up, just by talking to a lot of in-house recruiters, they're being torn in all these different directions, and a lot of them doesn't have to do with physician recruiting. So one of the things I think I could recommend is, you know, just start recording your time, and hey, what are you doing, and is it recruiting related or is it not recruiting related, and you know, take inventory, and you know, after a week's time, I think you're going to have a pretty good sense of what that is. You know, for me, I know I've managed people in the past, and I'm always, you know, hey, I want to go out and I want to conquer the world, I want to do things, and I seriously had an issue with assigning people multiple tasks, and I started figuring out very shortly, well, maybe not so shortly, but it took me some time, that once they, you know, once I understood what I was doing, I kind of trained my employees to say, hey, listen, Todd, I can do that for you, no problem. But if I do this, then I can't do this, which was their core job. Is that what you want me to do? And I think sometimes it's just communicating to your supervisor or your director or your CEO or whoever it is that, hey, I'll be happy, you know, I'll be happy to do whatever you want for me. But if I do this, it may take me away from my core responsibilities. Is that what you want me to do? So you constantly are just taking inventory. But I think that, you know, one of the things that you can do is, what are you doing? What's working well? What's not working well? And I think at the end, you're going to be able to assess and free up some time there. And maybe you start investing some time into some of the things that we talked about today. So that was.
I also think that's a great. Yeah, I think that's a great. Also, you know, we've been presenting and talking about where and how you can leverage some of the best resources out there. So hopefully, as you know, continuing to provide and be a resource to help, you know, our core focus is to deliver best of class information to residents and physicians on their career and life planning, and our complementary core is to give and enable and empower the resident recruitment, the recruitment stakeholders inside of these valuable employers, which we've done for hundreds of our partners, to give them the resources and powers to go out and accomplish these goals. So I love the idea that we have to be proactive in setting expectations and giving people some feedback, but I also think it's fundamental important to make sure that they are aware of and leveraging the resources that they can to streamline and expedite and have, and even some of the things that we're going to invite people to have access to, you know, your script for reaching out and how to secure a residency presentation, and then the master, what do we call that, the timeline, the strategic timeline planning worksheet. I mean, finding and leveraging those resources available is going to be a huge support in that.
Another question came in, and I'm smiling when I'm reading this. We live in a world that everything is measured, you know, rate of return, everything we do. How do we measure the ROI on the recommendations you made today? I think that's a great question. How do I answer that? Well, obviously, you have to measure everything that you do. You spend a tremendous amount of money on going to career fairs, signing up for job boards. You know, you're going to continue to do that. The question becomes, how do you differentiate the experience from your competitors? How do you provide more value? How do you, you know, when there is a doctor and you get them from a resident list or whatever the case may be, how do you enrich that experience? And I'll share with you that it's very difficult to put a dollar and cent on it. There's just some things that you need to do to kind of gain that competitive spirit. And I think the recommendations that we've provided today, a lot of them several of them are complementary. The resources that we can provide you, there's certain things that we can give you that is going to at least get you on the right start. But I think that what is the risk of not competing, not providing a competitive advantage? What's the risk of not doing it? And it's going to be tougher to recruit more and more physicians as these baby boomers are retiring. And you know it, I know it. And how do you create a rate of return to go out to a residency program and create a relationship with the residents, not only to get in there one time, but to go in there on an ongoing basis. And whether that's monthly or quarterly or yearly, it's up to you. But it's hard to measure it, but it's something that that you need to do. So measure everything. Constantly take inventory of what you're doing and what could you be doing more to provide a better service. So that's kind of how I would answer that question.
Like it. I think those are two pretty powerful questions and responses. Again, inviting people to reach out to us and provide questions offline that we'll be able to respond to. Real clarity and things to think about for what can you be doing in 2017. So, one of the things I thought would be helpful is at the beginning we talked about the takeaways that we wanted to make sure that we hit on, and that was sort of our goal. Let's see how we did here. So we talked about one of the takeaways. We want to give you some ideas and clarity on how do I reach out to secure more residency presentations. So hopefully we did a good job addressing that. This is one I think we hopefully hit really good is what can we do at career fairs to stand out and connect deeper with candidates. I think we were successful here. Obviously here, what can I do to help qualified candidates prepare for the interview? We spent a good deal of time going through not only just interview, but a lot of things on either side of the interview, preparation for, negotiation, compensation, strategies, etc. We touched on this one here. We wanted to make sure is the career section of your website helping support the hiring process? I think it would be fair for most everybody here to say no, it's not, compared to particularly to some of the things that you were able to see, some of our essential ingredients about what is actually a good one looks like. Are resources available to support career and life planning challenges? That was one of the goals. I think we hopefully accomplished that one. How do I find all the time to do this and demands faced every day? Sort of the undertone of all that, and hopefully we provide everybody with some clarity that there are some good resources and strategies out there that can help you accomplish all this and more, reach that goal of at least a quarterly residency presentation. And then, let's move on to here. Let's talk about some of the recommendations that we talked about. Let me jump over here and make sure we get this. Okay, so one of the things we talked about is make sure you request your copy of the Career and Life Planning Workbook. So you're more than welcome to do that. We talked about that as an action item. Check out that physician career planning. We took and invited you a couple times to go look through that, look through different resources. If you guys are interested at all in having additional conversations with us about these things and strategies, you're more than welcome to reach out and schedule a conference call with us. Let's see here. Yes, here we're testing the 13 topics that we talked about, presentations. We have those PowerPoints presentations, so if that's what you'd like to talk about, if you want to have additional conversations on our recommendations and strategies about how to build an employer brand profile page, we're more than happy to talk about that. Again, integrating career plan library, some of the one-on-one coaching that we do. Let's see here. Group workshops. Yep. One of the fundamental things I want to make sure we touched on before we wrap up here is that we're going to make sure that we record and process and put this on a site, and we want to make sure this is a tool that each of you who spent the time with us today and hopefully received the value that we promised can come back and reference it. We talked about we're going to try to segment them based on each of the 6 steps or some of the major points that you can go back and refresh. But we also want to make this a tool that is an empowerment tool that you can share for all the stakeholders, from the everybody who's involved with resident and physician recruitment process equation, from the CEO to operations to community outreach to all the recruitment. This is a tool for you guys to helpfully use, and just about every one of our partners that have shared that the Adventures in Medicine resources have been instrumental in helping recruitment get the support and understanding of the resources they need to deliver from all members of the organizations, and to help get everybody on the same page. So that's going to be there for you. We're going to make sure you get the emails on how to access it. By all means, feel free to share it and use it internally as a resource to help you accomplish those goals. So let's take a look at, alrighty. So that sort of wraps up our 6 simple steps for big residency recruitment results in 2017. Again, if you want a complimentary decision-making worksheet, obviously type in info@adventuresinmedicine.com with the decision-making worksheet in the subject line. If you'd like to request your complimentary copy of that full career and life planning workbook, do the same. Put it in the subject line, send it to. If you'd like to schedule a conference call where we can go through this, reach out to sales@adventuresinmedicine.com. Here's Todd and my individual email addresses, so you're more than welcome to reach out to us. And I think we'll leave this up here, Todd, for a little bit as we wind down. So any parting thoughts as we wrap this thing down and bring it to a close, Todd?
No. Thanks for taking taking us through this. This is hopefully it's good for everybody.
Good. So on behalf of Todd and I and the whole Adventures in Medicine team, I thank you all for being a part of this webinar today. I hope we fulfilled our promise and over-delivered on the value for the time you spent with us. Again, feel free to email us your thoughts. Let us know how we can help you make 2017 your very, very best resident and physician recruitment year ever. And thank you.